The purpose of this video will be to aid you in completing assignment 4, and hopefully in 10 minutes or so I'll show you everything you need to do to complete the assignment. And if you're not quite sure what to model in SketchUp, I'll save you some trouble. Just make a new sign, make a new Lions Conservancy Park sign. So that's what it looks like now. Let's hop over to SketchUp. I will create a new file and clean up some windows here. Now, you don't even really need to measure it out. I think I've mentioned SketchUp, you know, it's meant to be much like sketching on a paper. We can worry about the details later. So, you know, perhaps I want to make a small base like this, and there we go. I'll pull that up, and I'm just using the offset tool, which is right here. I have it set to a shortcut, and we'll try a few things. So offset again. I really am just making this up on the fly, so I'm not quite sure what it's going to turn out like. And I'll use the arc tool here to perhaps draw just a couple arcs like that. Push pull that back, maybe push pull that in a hair. And you know, maybe we'll make this kind of like the National Park Service type things where they have like benches on the side. And you know, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to hit my modifier key to create a new face because I want that base to stay like it is there. And I will scale this top thing. This is probably going to be a horrible looking bench slash sign, but you know, we'll go with it. So there we go. I'll add some text. 3D text is right over here. And let's do, how about all caps? That's not what it's called, is it? Conservancy, okay. I can never remember that. Now, very important, I'm not going to extrude this because I just want it to be sitting up against that surface. So I'll just kind of eye it. Looks good. Let's add some more text. I just put some spaces in there. I could have moved these manually as well, but if I want to snap that to the width, I can do that very easily. Now, I'm hitting my shortcuts, but if you keep an eye on this bar over here, you will see the tools that are being activated. So for example, if I want to scale, I hit my shortcut, and you can see that tool is activated. So again, use your pause and play quite liberally. You know, there we go. Not very exciting, but you know, good enough. Oh, I better save it. Now you may have noticed that I was not measuring any of this. I was just drawing it out. If we were to measure it with the measure tool, which is right here, you know, if this was really built, you know, that'd probably be 18 inches tall. You know, that's a good size for a bench. It's pretty narrow though. So let's measure, let's measure that. I'm going to draw a little helper line here. So this helper line will give me a better idea of complete top to complete bottom. Grab the tape measure and measure. So I'm at 13 feet, very, very large. This is a monolithic sign. If I wanted to very quickly make that 18 inches, here's a cool little trick. Take your measure tool, click on one point, click on another point to set the measure, and right after you've done that, type what you want it to be. So I'll type 18 inches and hit enter, and when I hit enter, the whole model will scale. And it even asks you, do you want to resize the model? So now that is set to 18 inches, very conveniently. You know what, and I'm going to just make this whole thing a little bit fatter. Ugh, looks more like a gravestone than a sign. So do a better design job than this. I'll go ahead and save this, and I will send it to layout. I don't think I specified a paper size, so I'll just go ahead and do letter landscape for now. And I think I said I want a top, front, and a side. So first thing, let's set this to a front view. Turn off perspective, go to front, and as I scale, that will resize because I do not have a scale set on it yet. Let's make this bigger. Cleaning up some windows. So what I want open is the SketchUp model window, and I'll set my scale to maybe 1 inch equals a foot. See how that looks. That's pretty big. Let's try 1 inch. Half of an inch equals a foot. That's too small. Yeah, good enough. We can also change it later. So now that that is set, I can grab these bounds, and the SketchUp model doesn't get all kind of jumpy on you. So you want this bounding box, this layout bounding box, to about be on the outskirts of it. So there's my front view. How do I make my side view? Very easy. Make a copy. Now the move tool is kind of tied in with the select tool. They're one and the same, and the icon just turns into the move tool when you hover on top of it. So make a copy over here, holding down the correct modifier, select it again, and I'll make a copy down here. And you know what? I'm going to delete that because I changed my mind. I want this one to be, whoops, not mean to do that. Copy over there. So this one, let's right click and go to top. It lines up perfectly. This one I will right click and go to side. If you're not sure which side, just try a couple of them. Move it back into position. So this one got out of alignment, and actually it would make more sense now that I think about it to position this right next to that guy. So I might need to zoom in here and just try to get that close. Let's reposition. There we go. So I still need what I'd like to call the money shot. So let's make another copy over here. Right click. Let's turn perspective back on, and double click into edit mode. You know, this thing might be a lost cause. I don't think it's going to look nice no matter what I do. So right click, go to, nope, not zoom, right click, pan. That's what I want. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, so that seems a little bit nicer right about there. Now I'm missing a tiny bit of the corner here, so I'll make sure that I pan across. Now notice in this default mode that the background is transparent. Very important here. So you know what? I'm going to move this guy over here. Move these two guys over here. Maybe move that right there. That layout just seems to work, lend itself a little bit nicer to the way this is laid out. Now, because that's not at a scale, if I drag this, the whole thing moves. So there we go. Another thing I might want to do is position this in the background. So notice right now it's on top of everything. That's as easy as right click and send to back. Oops. There we go. So the layout is pretty close. Now we just need to add text. As before, you know, get one text correct and then just make necessary copies. So let's call this front view. Zoom in. Everything in layout has a container. So if I click on that text, I can see the blue container. This has a container. That has a container. You can't scale text. If I try to scale it, it just changes the container. But what I could do is make the container a little bit bigger. Don't select the text. As in SketchUp, just click out in white space a lot. Select the container and then do shortcut T. So Command T on a Mac, Control T on Windows. That should bring up your fonts. Hopefully, if not, let me know. And you know, size 10. Yeah, let's try 14. Front view looks good. So from here, I can also change my justification, where it is relative to the box, typical text management. So let's move this over here. make a copy there. Not very exciting. Little tip for you guys, not entirely necessary to label things perspective. If you have to label it perspective, it probably means that it's in such horrible perspective that the viewer would not otherwise know that that's what it is. So not necessary to really label everything, including that. That's just a pretty eye candy. But we need a title on this, so this is kind of a nice spot for a title. This would probably be a good spot for some write-up. So another tip, and actually it's perfectly fine if you want to do this. If you just need some text to fill a block, go to lipsum.com. I think it's Lipsum. And this will give you a random text generator. So hit generate, just some junk. This is really good just if you kind of want to know what text will look like in a space. So let's select that, go back to my fonts, Command T or Control T. There we go. This little arrow is telling me that there's stuff hidden inside of this container. Since it's just garbage, I'll just delete some. So, you know what, for this assignment, perfectly okay to do that if you don't want to write up a complete description. But you do need a title. So let's call this Lions I'm going to do it. New. There we go. So select that. Go to my fonts. And I believe I showed you this little trick too. If you're not comfortable with the fonts, font management in layout at this time, you know what? Just go to Illustrator. So right now I'm in Illustrator, and because in Illustrator you can scale text, and you might just be a little bit more familiar with this. So maybe I want to do, let's try, yeah, it's a horrible font, but can I copy and paste this? Let's find out. Paste. Okay, that just pasted the text, which is not what I wanted. So what I need to do is create outlines. Now if I copy and paste it, voila. This is a scalable vector shape. So your call, whatever's easiest for you. And as you're doing this, you can obviously see you're going to need to kind of nudge things to get them to fit. What is kind of nice, you can use your arrow keys to nudge things. You can't do that in SketchUp, but you can in Illustrator. I'm sorry, Layout. So so far so good. We need to add some dimensions, and there's a callout label here. So if I wanted to do a callout, here, I can do the callout. The dimensions are kind of hidden. Let's get rid of that. Why they're hidden, I don't quite know, but I think it's under Tools, Dimensions, and right here, Linear and Angular. Pretty much the only two dimensions you will need. So if I do linear, I'll just start clicking on some stuff. Click and click again. So right away I can see that I'm probably going to need to rearrange this. You just gotta use your discretion. Like, the width would make more sense measured from down here than it would be from right here. So let's erase that. Tools, dimensions, linear. The height of the bench might be important. Click once, click twice, and click to set. Now for angle, this angle right here might be very important. If someone was actually going to build this or construct this, you need to measure that, and usually you're going to dimension an angle from a flat or a vertical. So, I wouldn't measure from down here. The angle tool is a little tricky, so pay attention, maybe pause, take a breath, shake it out if you're getting lost. Dimensions, angular, it's a multi-click process. When in doubt, just look down here. But you set one line, then you set another line by clicking on 2 more points, and then it gives you the angle. And if you move your cursor inside and outside of that angle, it changes. Now, another little trick here, I could measure that all the way around, but if that is a typical angle, I think we can edit it. Double click, double click. Yep, just keep double clicking, and I'll put a typical, a cheating way to say, all the angles are this. So, not very pretty, but hopefully you're getting the idea. Last thing, let me show you styles. If I'll just work with this one and go back to my shape style. Whoops, not shape style. We want window SketchUp model because we're applying a SketchUp style. Click on styles, and when in doubt, just try some different ones. Some of these have backgrounds, some do not. So, if you see a background, that's why. You can't create the styles here, but you can create them in Photoshop. I'm sorry, create them in SketchUp and then bring them in. If we hit this drop-down list, the style builder competition winners are kind of cool. And you can really use that built-in background to help you out. So, for example, this one's really neat. The background kind of has a border, built-in border, but if I resize this, notice that the border resizes too, and because it's in the background, you can really work with that. Let's nudge this down. Now, to get that back into position, I can't move it because the whole thing moves, but if I double click, then right click, then select pan, I can zoom with my scroll wheel, I can orbit with my middle button, and I can kind of get it close to where I want it, and it'll clean itself up. So sweet. I'm about ready to buy myself a new entry sign. Let's move this up. This is kind of neat too because with the background you can see the horizon line. So wherever your horizon line is at, that is the same height as your view. So if I'm a 6 foot tall eye level person, everything that crosses that horizon line is exactly 6 feet. So how tall is my little drawing here? 6 feet. If I'm right there, if I'm right here, now that 6 feet would be about halfway through. So now the whole thing is twice as tall. That is different than the scale that I've applied to this. Because this is at a scale, your horizon kind of takes on a different meaning. So maybe best to ignore what I just said. All right, let me show you another neat thing you can do. And to do this, I'm going to set this back to a boring default style, which is right here. You know what? And before I do that, let's go back to SketchUp. And let's maybe color this guy up. So I'll go to, let's go to stone. And, maybe this part is made up of that. I'm in a hurry, so I won't do the background. This will be made of that. And, whoops, I already used that one. This thing is pretty horrendous, but you know what? It's kind of a lost cause, I guess. Whoa, that's really bad. Okay, so there that is. Maybe I'll change the geometry a little bit. Give this thing a little hat. There we go. This text is a group, so you can edit the group and maybe just make that a solid color. You can apply it to the inside, or you can just paint a color on top of a group as well. Sometimes that's a little bit easier. So it doesn't matter what my view is at here, but I will save it. Hop back over here, and this should update. Oh no, actually it won't update automatically. You need to right click on one of your referenced models and select update reference. Keep an eye on it. Bing, there you go. So now these guys are going to need to move because my adjustment made them go off the edge. And since these are more of the technical type representations, I'd probably want those to be just line art. So I'll select those three, go back to the styles, which again is on the SketchUp model dialog, which is underneath here. And you know, just try a couple. Play around, find one you like. For this is fine. If you're looking for more of an AutoCAD type look, you can go to color sets and, you know, oh, that's kind of weird. Just try them all out. Find one you like. I'm going to go back to default and choose boring old white. This guy, I could, you know, go ahead and choose one. No, that actually doesn't look too bad. But here's what I want to show you that's kind of neat with this. Let's find one that does not have a background. Oops. So there we go. So I want this colored, and you know what? This will work with a background too. So there, I like this one's kind of got a sketchy edge. It's got our horizon line and it's got some background information. Here's the neat thing. So if we select just that shape, very important that you're telling layout to render this as a raster. I'll explain in class what this means, but it has to render it either as a vector, as a raster, or a hybrid. If it's vector, you cannot display raster stuff like textures. So if I change it, notice that went away. And it takes a little bit longer to grind, but if you go to raster, it turns everything into a raster image. If you zoom in, see how it's kind of jaggedy like that? So that may or may not suit your fancy. If you do hybrid, it does a little bit of both. But again, it takes a little bit longer to draw. So these lines are vector shapes. That's really kind of weird. The images are images. So for now, for this little trick, you need to set that to raster. And here's the trick. Select it, do a copy, go to Photoshop, make a new file, and when you make a new file in Photoshop and you have something on your clipboard, it will automatically set the height and width to be the same as whatever is on your clipboard. So now if I paste, there we go. So this is just an image. Keep in mind, any edits I do here will not be reflected in the model. But here's some really kind of neat quick edits we can do. I will first of all erase the background. And I can either use the eraser tool, which is hiding. You know, I'll just do, oh, there it is, eraser tool, and I have it set to magic eraser, so if I just click, it just gets rid of everything in the background. Using this tolerance, it has a pretty high tolerance. If I set that to 0, it'll only delete things that are exactly that color. So now it only deleted that background. It will only delete everything that's kind of within that exact level. So I only want to get rid of the top part here, so let's try 16. Meh. You know what? I'll just get rid of all of it, so good enough. I'll make a couple extra layers. And in one video I showed you the clone tool that was really kind of nifty. In this one, I'll show you the paintbrush. A really useful tool is this grass, and I'll show you how to get to it. Pick two sort of grassy colors for your foreground and background. You know, if it's springtime, these would probably be a little bit lusher green. If it's in the fall, you know, they'd probably be yellowy. And if it's in the summertime, maybe somewhere in between. So very important, your foreground and background. Grab your paintbrush, right click, and to get the grass brush, you need to click on this flyout. Whoops, let me bring this. You maybe cannot see this. Let's try this again. Right, there we go. Click on this flyout here, and it's underneath. It's one of these. I think it's one of the natural brushes. Just try each one, and it'll ask you if you want to append. I don't think it's in there. Let's try natural brushes too. Okay, maybe it's not in either one of those. It might just be the default one too. So look for that little grassy guy. If you right click, and when you have your brush selected, it'll bring up this dialog where you can change the size. So notice how my size changes. So really quickly, I'm going to go through and make kind of a small brush size here, and I'm just going to paint across the side. Oops, and I accidentally erased some of that, which I did not mean to do. Ugh, I don't like that grass. Not enough red-ish. So what I'm going to do here is, let's see how that looks. A little bit nicer. Also very important that I'm in this layer behind here, because I want to be painting behind my shape and painting down. And because grass usually gets bigger the closer it gets to you, I'll right click and make that bigger. It's like Elysium here. Right click, make it bigger. And finally, I'll go to this layer that's on top, activate it, and maybe do a couple of things like this. So kind of hide in there. Oh, how nice. So background, let me make a new layer here. You know, when in doubt, just do a blue gradient. Change the colors. If you need a quick sky, let's go to a dark blue to a whitish blue. You know, and there's not really a right or a wrong. Do you want it to go, you know, gradient from one to the other? And just try them both and see which way looks better. So, not so bad. You can also do this. You know, if you're in a real big hurry, just Google steal an image from the internet. Yeah, there we go. And if you're in a super big hurry and you don't even want to download it, just do the shortcut. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Oh, Google. It's trying to redirect me. Okay, so I will use my shortcut key here and just kind of take a screenshot, open that up, and copy and paste and rescale. Now the bottom here, there's some blue showing through on this layer. Probably what I would do is make another layer, select that, pick a dark green, and I'll just fill it. So the fill trick is Alt-Delete. That will fill it with your foreground color. So my foreground is green, Alt-Delete fills it up. Control-Delete on a Windows, or and I think Command-Delete on a Mac will fill it with your background color. But, you know, there we go, looks good. So if I wanted to quickly send this back, I would need to flatten it. Let's right-click, flatten image, copy, and paste in layout. Now I'll need to send that to the background by right-clicking, arrange, send to back. And you know what? Maybe we want to keep this for later on. I'll just move it off to the side. And I'll rescale this. You don't have to go through all those steps. Just wanted to show you another way to really dress this up. There you go. Who's ready to buy a new horrible entry sign for the Lions Conservancy Park?